A very good morning to you. How is your week kicking off? If we haven't met before, my name is Richard Midson. I'm a former public relations person, former career news editor and news broadcaster, and a former YouTube creator as well, actually, of a niche private aviation channel. Welcome back to the Public Relations Podcast. If we have met before, I have moved to an entirely new city, so if you have sent me a message recently, my apologies for not replying back to you. I am now living in Sydney, Australia. So if you are around in the city, give me a few weeks to get settled in, and I would love to meet up for a coffee. In the meantime, though, I have another episode for you this week, and going back to AI developments again. Now, I know that a lot of people are saying, look, AI is for big companies. It is not. It is not for big companies. If you think about the costs involved in it, which I'll mention in a few seconds' time, it's for every company, whether you're a big corporation, a global organization, or charity, all the way to down to being a sort of small Etsy type crafty business. AI is going to change things. So what I want to do today, as I do quite regularly in this show now, is to update you on some of the stories around AI, which I think can help us not just learn about how we need to approach media, how we need to approach content creators if we're trying to get coverage, but also how we can improve the way that we do things too. Don't forget, as usual, if you are listening in your car or on the train, don't worry about making any notes. It's all going to be in the newsletter next week. So if you go to thepublicrelationspodcast.com, thepublicrelationspodcast.com, and click on the newsletter link, you'll see it in the menu at the top. You can sign up to that and get all the details. Oh, and by the way, if you sign up to that as well, you get that original article that I did on loads of FAQs about how AI is going to affect PR. That will get sent out to you automatically. Right, let's have a look at a couple of these stories that I've been noticing then. The first one is about newsrooms adopting AI. Now, of course, we're talking about modern PR here on this show, so we're not just talking about traditional journalists, we're talking about content creators as well, but everyone's using AI now, or at least more and more people are. You know, if you look at the situation with newsrooms, we heard about the situation with CNET, when it all kind of came out earlier this year in January, on the fact that a lot of their articles had been being written by AI, and there were all kinds of problems with the accuracy of them. Now, they were saying, the actual company themselves, saying, we weren't keeping it secret, we were just not talking about it that much. But the problem is that AI is being used more and more, and that is changing the way the newsrooms are working. And again, like I say, don't just think this is something for big newsrooms or big organizations or big content creators. You know, I don't know about you, whether you set up a ChatGPT account yet, but I'm paying for a premium account. I pay just $20 a month. That's it. That's all I have to use to get access to that and be able to enter loads and loads of questions and get loads of information out of it. So this is stuff that is available at every level. The problem with ChatGPT, the problem that journalists have found, the problem that everyone is finding with this is accuracy. There's this kind of convincing delusion. I can't remember what the term that's been bandied around recently, but it's this problem, is that GPT can write stuff in a really, really convincing way and get it wrong. So if you're not careful, you can really easily fall down this trap. So it's a bit like using Wikipedia. You know, Wikipedia is an amazing source of information, but you still got to treat it with a pinch of salt. The problem for ChatGPT, the problem for AI generally for journalists, is that it is still simply not good enough to determine what is reliable and what is just something that lots of people are saying that appears to be true that isn't. You know, even in the case of scientists, I mean, just look back at COVID, how many scientists disagreed with the mainstream? Now, which attitude does ChatGPT take? Does it take the one that is being said by more people? Is it said by the one that gets more followers who like it? How does it assess what is true? The point is, we don't need to worry about those algorithms. What we do need to do is treat it all with a pinch of salt. So if we go back to newsrooms, if we go back to content creators, I mean, there was a quote in, I think it was in DigiDay a while back, where David Ewalt, the editor-in-chief of the tech site Gizmodo, said that in particular, AI will be able to write those stories where they're the kind of fill-in-the-blank stories. Now, I can tell you from my journalism days that one of the problems you kind of got to, this was at the end of my journalism days, you used to feel like you got the same stories coming up every day, and all you had to do was fill in the name of the person, where it happened, and a quick quote, which would always be a fairly generic quote you probably had from different people in different places over and over again in the past. So these fill-in-the-blank stories are things that he was saying could be done by AI fairly quickly. Certainly, AI is being used more and more for reporting now. I've mentioned this in the article as well about the fact you can search for, who is the source of, or who are the best sources or the best research providers on this particular topic. So journalists are going to be using this stuff now. And in order to get noticed, and this is where I think it has the impact on PR, is that if you're trying to approach a journalist now, you're going to struggle to get into those rip and read stories, into those fill in the blank stories, the simple ones. It's more important than ever to be delivering quality pictures, not just saying we're doing this, but why it's interesting, why it's relevant, why the human journalist is going to have to be dealing with this story rather than the AI bot. Because is the AI bot going to pick you up? There's ways of approaching that, which I talk about in the article on that you get if you sign up to newsletter as well. But on the whole, if you want a human journalist to talk about you and to give you that coverage that you need, you're going to have to produce a really good quality pitch with real insight and really interesting content within it. There's one other thing which I don't think I actually covered in the article, and this was about the whole, I talked about copyright and about how the problem with DALL-E and image creation AI systems is causing big questions about copyright. You know, who actually generated that image? Because AI doesn't just magically create an image, it has to reference other sources. And you're seeing now that platforms like Getty are actually getting involved in this now. They're actually doing the deals with the AI platforms to try and get around that. But when it comes down to text, it's much harder, of course. The moment you start paraphrasing content, at what point is it plagiarizing? Is it stealing from someone else? Or at what point is it original content? And the argument that the pro-AI people are using here is they're saying, well, look, nothing is actually original. Everything is a derivative of something else. So is AI basically just doing what a human would do anyway? Is research is about, I mean, what was it they used to say at university or college, whatever you want to call it, used to say that plagiarism was copying from one source. Research was copying from two or more. So where does that argument come in? But even putting all that aside, AI is so popular and so powerful that these issues are kind of getting sorted out in the wash as we go along. The next aspect I wanted to talk to you about was the future of your company voice in relation to AI and how the existence of AI and ChatGPT and those sorts of systems is going to influence the way that we present ourselves. And the reason I say this is because of the fact that OpenAI, for example, which is behind ChatGPT, are starting to introduce apps, are doing experiments with apps within that. So, for example, Kayak is one of the first brand partners. I think there's something like 12 of them at the moment. There's like Shopify, Slack, Klarna, I think is another one as well. And the idea is that they're going to start allowing you to go in via the ChatGPT platform, but then access the data from these different people. So in the case of Kayak, which is a travel website, you would go onto ChatGPT, you would say, I want to get a flight from New York to Boston, and it would then use Kayak's platform to find those flights and book it for you. This is something that Amazon were trying to do with Amazon Alexa. So they were trying to be that central hub in your house, which would do everything for you. And it looks like OpenAI is going to be able to do that a lot more effectively. So they're starting to do these tests with these different apps. But the question from a PR perspective is, okay, well, where does that leave the brand voice? Because if ChatGPT is representing you and they're just simply providing the infrastructure and the bookings and the support, then where does the public relations side of this come in? If ChatGPT becomes the front end and becomes that conversation, then how are people going to choose which brand to use? Or will it be that OpenAI or whatever chatbot only uses Kayak for travel? If you're a rival travel firm, are you going to be able to get your foot in there? Which comes back to the whole point of differentiation again, is that how do you make sure that when people go on there, they say, I want to book via your company and not Kayak's? So once again, we're going to have to make it clearer as to what is it that differentiates you from other people, but on an emotional level. You know, if everyone's providing a good product, then why should you feel that you want to book with someone instead of someone else? And that's going to come down to PR people and also to an extent branding people as well, to be developing much, much stronger conversations than people are already having, to make sure that when someone goes onto that AI chatbot, that they're picking your product and not someone else's. So to kind of sum that up, with the arrival of apps, with the arrival of the integration of companies within OpenAI, and removing some of that conversation that we have directly with customers, PR is going to become more essential than ever if you're not just one of those big companies that is potentially going to dominate. Next story is about AI whisperers. Now, what do I mean by this? You might have heard of the horse whisperer many years ago, Monty Roberts, that was famed for talking to horses and getting them to do stuff in a nice, gentle way. Well, this is about talking with AI. And it may sound like you need to be a coder to work with AI, but actually, no. There was a story out recently, it was reported in a few places, that a job for an AI whisperer was being offered for $500,000 a year. And your skills could be useful for this, because it's not coders who are getting paid to do this. This is people with English skills, with linguistic skills, with foreign language skills, people who are able to ask the right prompts into the chatbots. Now, I can tell you, when I was starting to work on the Public Relations Podcast project, which I've mentioned before, and hopefully will be coming fairly soon, I did some experiments by writing a chatbot myself that would be based on public relations. And one of the things you do is you set the tone of it. You set how you want it to speak. So I said, for example, I put in there, give the answer in the style of a professional public relations person. And it actually came up with an answer that was very cold. But you can set the tone when you're working with AI to give it a different style of conversational approach. So getting it to deliver the results in the way that you want it to talk, which is PR at the end of the day, is going to become increasingly important. Adding the right prompt, writing the right request from it so that it delivers what you need is going to be essential, or people are going to spend more and more time having to rewrite it or change it. The more you can get it right from the start, the faster it's going to be. And it's PR skills, it's those communication skills, those language skills, they're going to be absolutely vital for that. So if you fancy a $500,000 a year paycheck, then you might want to become an AI whisperer. Right. And the final story I want to talk about is about ebooks. Now, according to some stuff that came out in February, there was at the time 100 ebooks written entirely by AI on Amazon Kindle. Now, if you want to write a book for your company fast, instead of spending 6 months or a year doing it, maybe you want to write an ebook about the history of the company, or say you're a baker and you want to publish a book fast with a series of recipes or the history of cooking in Rome or whatever it is, then this could be the moment to do it quickly, because that number is going to rocket as people start writing more and more books using AI. Now, because of the text limits on this, you're probably going to have to write it section by section, but in theory, you could be able to write an ebook for your company and selling it even, or just getting it out for free to people very, very quickly. So there's a couple of stories for you. The main takeaways from that, I suppose, are, first of all, remember that newsrooms and content creators are using AI more and more. You're going to have to be as high quality and as original in your pitch as you possibly can be. Remember that apps are coming for ChatGPT and other AI bots. They inevitably will in future, which means that the competition to stand out could come more and more down to you in developing that strong emotional response as to why people want to use your products over the main app or the main company that is being partnered with within these bots. Why are they going to come to you? Next one was about the AI whisperer. Yep, PR people could certainly become AI whisperers. You're going to be talking to a bot more than people, but you could earn an awful lot of money doing it. And finally, it could be the perfect time right now, for the next few months at least, to be writing an AI ebook, perhaps to put across the version of history of your company or your organization that you would like to get across as fast as possible. And you could get those out within a few weeks. Loads more on AI, of course, and how it's affecting PR. Loads more coming out from the Public Relations Podcast as well, once I get back into full swing now that I'm in this city. By the way, if you are in Sydney, give me a few weeks, and then I would love to have a coffee. Love to meet up and have a chat. If you're anywhere else in the world, then, of course, as always, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Richard Midson, M-I-D-S-O-N, M-I-D-S-O-N. The Public Relations Podcast Project. Thank you so much again for all your interest in that. If you're thinking about potentially subscribing to that, I will have more details about what that's all about. The whole idea is it's going to be this kind of PR helper in your pocket. And so far, I don't know, personally, I'm really excited about it. Hope you will be too. And finally, don't forget, all the notes from this episode, as always, are going to be in the next newsletter at thepublicrelationspodcast.com, thepublicrelationspodcast.com, and you will see the newsletter link at the top. For the time being, though, I need to get on with unpacking my boxes and get back to the normal day job as well. I'll speak to you real soon.